Hi everybody, and welcome to Matrix Live episode 11, coming to you still from the beanbags where we prevail. I'm Dean, what's the story on funding?
So funding-wise, no new corporate sponsor to announce this week, but a lot more individual patrons. So welcome everyone, and thank you. Heads up that the money is literally going straight to paying the team right now, so really that's super useful and helpful. So yes, thanks again.
I mean, we should say that literally we're at the point where if it wasn't for the Patreon donations, we would have to be going into our savings right now. So the good news is that we hopefully do have light at the end of the tunnel. Nothing signed yet, but we've got various options which we're hoping are going to save the day on funding. But yeah, nothing locked down yet. But either way, the Patreon and Libra Pay and Bitcoin and Ethereum stuff has been critical to to basically bridge the gap, hopefully.
Indeed. There has been some noise in the cryptocurrency community.
Yep, indeed. So we've obviously been doing a lot of work with the cryptocurrency space over the last couple of weeks, and this came to a head this week with folks and the various different Ethereum projects trying to work out whether to migrate from Slack onto Riot and Matrix or through to Rocket.Chat or some other open source platform. And some folks have pledged allegiance. It all feels a bit like Game of Thrones, really, doesn't it? Some folks have gone and sort of pledged fealty to Riot, and some have pledged fealty to Rocket.Chat. And it's all a bit ironic, given that in the end, both Riot and Rocket.Chat and all of the systems should hopefully get glued together by Matrix in the longer term. But basically, people need somewhere to migrate to right now because the spam and the phishing problem on Slack is horrific, as in unusable. And so I think we just saw an announcement a few hours ago from folks on the Aragon project, which is an Ethereum-based product, that they have ended up going over to Rocket.Chat. However, we have reason to believe that a bunch of others are going to go on to the Riot side of things. So watch this space. If nothing else, it's been a good experiment and experience in seeing that we still have UX stuff that needs to be improved on the Matrix side before people are happy to use native Matrix clients for stuff like this unilaterally.
Yeah, I can't wait to have funding to actually be able to hire UI UX people to actually fix this and move on.
That's a good point, actually, that assuming that funding is resolved in the near future, we're desperately going to need to have proper professional paid full-time UI UX people to help us fix the mainstream sort of usability of Riot. I mean, it's pretty good, but if you compare it with Discord and Slack or even Rocket.Chat, it's still got a long way to go. So if you know anybody who's interested, there's no harm in getting in touch.
Yep.
Although I guess it might be worth waiting a week or two to check that we do actually
we can still speak to them.
Yeah, we'd love to talk to them. And it's open source, obviously, so perhaps there may even be more sort of open contributions to be made as well.
Yep.
Talking also on the funding side, there's the Librem 5 project from Purism, which has picked up steam in the last week or so. I saw that Purism announced a partnership with KDE to make sure that Plasma Mobile, the KDE mobile OS, and desktop environment works well on the hardware, and that's gone and increased their crowdfunding significantly. Last time I checked, I think they're up to 35% or 36% of their target. So it looks as if at the current rate they may well hit the target, which would be great news for us, so that we can go and get Matrix running on the Librem 5. And I've actually been doing some work over the last day or two, much to Amandine's despair, playing around with not a Librem 5, but my old BQ Ubuntu phone. If anybody hasn't seen an Ubuntu phone, they exist, they look like that. And what I've been doing is porting Neko, over to it, which is the Qt native desktop client. I've almost got it working. I was hoping to be able to show it, but
still one or more tonight.
Yeah, a couple more all-nighters battling cross-compilation tool chains before we can see that. But hopefully, once we can show that working, that will also reassure folks and see just how cool a native Matrix client working on a proper Linux phone would be, and hopefully help fund the project to completion there.
Yep.
I'm talking too much. Do you want to
Okay,
talk about Riot stuff?
Yeah, I'll start with the Riot side of things. So this week we didn't have 1 nor 2, but 3 releases of Riot Web. So that was 0.12.4, .5, and .6, but .6 is actually the good one, and we should be fine
practically speaking, the one that everybody's actually using is .4. And so if you're worried that you're stuck on 0.12.4, that's actually the main one we've released. But 5 and 6 were fixes to the build sequence. So people who tried to build their own 0.12.4 discovered it just didn't work due to a really nightmarish problem on Dave's laptop, which we won't talk about. I mean Dave's build server, which we won't talk about. But .5 and .6 just fix that. So yeah, basically 0.12.4 is the right one, but we had a bit of a nightmare there.
Okay. So this includes a lot of performance improvement. It's improved like by 2 or a factor of 2 or 3 performances.
When switching rooms, critically.
Especially when switching rooms. And we included as well a lot of big contributions, especially from Michael on the devtools side of things, and Travis for the ability to ignore users.
Yay.
Thank you, Travis. It was apparently perfect. Perfect.
It was
PR.
a perfect PR. I completely missed it. I was seeing whether we had any pending PRs and found approximately 80 of them. Sorry about that. And yeah, Travis's ignoring users one is, I don't think, had a single change to it. So yay, thank you.
Yeah, and next up, well, groups. Almost all working. Matthew, you had a demo today.
Yep.
So
it looks great. It looks ugly as sin. We need to apply CSS. But functionally, it's basically all there now.
So should land hopefully next week, and then we'll be setting up, of course, the supporters group as soon as it's out there, even if it's on the develop and as a beta state.
Yeah, I think we'll probably set it up even before groups land by just going and inviting everybody into a room, which, let's face it, we probably should have done months ago. But we can then go and sync that through into the group, and everybody will get their flair, and it will be amazing.
Yes. And on the mobile side, well, you can expect a release in the coming week. There have been a lot of work on widgets, which probably won't be released next week, but, well, actually, yes, it will. One of them will. It's the Jitsi integration when you click on the call button in group rooms.
It's actually going live on the iOS release.
It will next week, yeah. This is part of the release.
Cool. Does that mean we've got it on Android sorted then?
Yeah, it's sorted on Android, on iOS and web, so we were just waiting for all 3 platforms to have it to actually put it live, so hopefully next week.
Yeah, I think that's exciting. We need to make sure that web also has it so that when you hit the group call button it fires up a Jitsi. Well, if the mobile ones are doing it, then web needs to do it too.
Yeah, web have been doing it for 2 weeks or 3 weeks at least, I think.
Has it?
Yeah.
I should try pressing the button.
We haven't landed it because it needs to be implemented on all the 3 platforms, but it has been ready on web, waiting for iOS and Android, and now everyone has it, so we push everything live.
Okay, so it's sitting on a branch.
Yes.
Okay. We know what we're doing. It's fine.
And the guys, Manu and Guillaume, have been working on fixing the bugs introduced by iOS 11.
Although that's kind of cool because it means we now have native Dart mode support in iOS 11 because Apple have added Dart theme across the entire operating system because of their upcoming OLED iPhone 10.
Yeah, so that's the exciting stuff coming next week. Synapse, Dendrite?
Yes, so on the back end side of things, we did a little bit of work on Synapse as part of this big drama for anti-phishing in the cryptocurrency space. We added spam filtering and invite filtering into Synapse. So this means that you can run a very locked down server which basically prevents anybody from DMing you or inviting you to anything, as well as filtering the content from being replicated to the server. At the moment it's just a simple placeholder Python method, but you can basically do any event filtering you like there, which is kind of fun. It would be even better if it supported active application service filtering or policy servers, which were a concept we came up with at the beginning of Matrix but have still never implemented, which allows you to implement a central choke point to do things like consistent spam and malware filtering on a room, at the expense of decentralizing it, or sorry, at the expense of centralizing it. That hasn't happened yet, but it's something that we thought about doing a bit more. And then on Dendrite, lots and lots of work is happening. We've had this week 4 folks working on it. Brandon has still been contributing stuff despite having fled last week. But also Eric and VDH have jumped on with Mark and hacking away on it. Lots of stuff really. So Mark landed all invite support yesterday. So we now have both third-party and native invite support working. There's been a lot of work going through on the documentation, but also making sytest work, and Eric has been chipping away actually making the sytest integration suite work. And at the moment we're at 9 out of like 600 tests passing, but that's only because it's crashing after the 9th test rather than all the rest of them fail right now. But that's very, very exciting. And probably the next big thing on Dendrite is going to be finally federating with Matrix HQ. And HQ has got some horrifically old buggy events in it, which Synapse has kind of inherited the ability to deal with, but Dendrite is a completely clean implementation, quite rightly rejects because it's completely corrupt. However, practically speaking, we obviously do want Dendrite to lower its standards and follow Postal's law, to be gracious in what it accepts, but picky on what it sends. And so we need to break it a bit to support HQ, but that is coming in the very near future. And it's actually more about how it handles the invalid events elegantly, whereas at the moment it sees a bad event and it just panics, whereas it should obviously do so resiliently.
Cool.
That's about it.
Yeah, on the widget side, nothing much, as it has been mostly maintenance after the big panic of launch, and working on the next generation of widgets. So
yeah, so that's going to be broadcasting stuff, as well as tighter Jitsi integration, as well as for profit being able to actually pay for services on via the App Store, the modular or scalar App Store going forwards. But yeah, lots and lots of work going on there. So yeah, it's been a long week, but things seem to be pretty much on track, and we're hoping again that, fingers crossed, funding stuff is going to be resolved in the near future. But meanwhile, thank you so much for supporting us, listening to us, believing in Matrix, and yeah, basically things are looking on track.
Oh, I have something else. Elliptic supporters. Some envelopes have left the office with
parcels. No, that's
parcels. Really? Yes, I couldn't remember the word. So yeah, some parcels have left the office for our dear Elliptic supporters. So watch the post, and hopefully everyone replied to Tom. So it's coming soon. Indeed,
T-shirts, right, and stickers and things. So. Basically, thank you folks who've been supporting us at the $50 plus a month. Your bribery, your swag is coming to you. Okay, well, have a wonderful weekend, everybody.
And speak to you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.